You have received such a box. Congratulations! You are the proud owner of a CREA wheel straightening machine. Open the crate. Remove the lid and lift the machine out of the box. In the box, you will find this box of accessories, as well as the operating instructions and other accessories you ordered. Please check that the delivery is complete according to the delivery bill and operating instructions. Most importantly, please read the operating instructions carefully. Please observe the mandatory signs, danger signs, and all instructions for commissioning and installation, such as space requirements. Open the accessories box. This box contains all the accessories required to operate the machine. Connect the machine to the main supply. The machine is operated from a normal 230-volt power supply. The first step is to fit the inlet and outlet plate to the machine. Take it out of the accessories box. It is very important that this plate is inserted correctly and cleanly. Otherwise, the machine cannot be started, as a safety switch is installed here. There is no switch on the outlet plate, but it must also be inserted correctly. To start the machine, switch on the main switch. Make sure that the emergency stop is unlocked. Use this switch to select the direction of rotation to the right for normal operation. Make sure that the speed is fully turned up, then you can start the machine with the green button. You will hear that the machine is running, and you will also see it on the indicator light. Now, switch the machine off again. In this step, I will explain how to set the material dimensions correctly. First, set the width. We have 40 millimeters here. To do this, I set half of the width on these setting rails, 21 and 20 millimeters respectively. I add a little extra so that the material runs cleanly through the machine without jamming. The second step is to set the material thickness. We want to straighten a 40 by 8 millimeter flat steel here. The material thickness is adjusted centrally on the setting wheel. I have a digital display that tells me the exact thickness. It is very important that the material is measured cleanly and accurately. The easiest way to do this is to measure it with the machine itself. For example, I go to 7 millimeters and push the bar onto the first roller. Then I move back a little, 5 to 6 centimeters, and open the material thickness adjustment to 9 millimeters. I push the rod between the first roller and clamp it hand tight with the material setting. I can then press the middle button here and get a temporary 0 point. This allows me to remove the material again. However, I can set it back to the pre-measured value. Before I let the first bar through the machine, I check this correction screw. This controls the last roller alone. It is important that I have set this to 0 before the first bar. Then I start the machine, take my rod, and let it through the machine. Now I can check the judging result. If your straightening result is satisfactory, you can start straightening your rods. Let all the rods through and remove them from the outlet plate. If your straightening result is not satisfactory and you need a correction, you must proceed as follows. Take a look at how the material came out of the machine. Does it slope downwards or upwards? If it has a downward slope, then I need to feed more material. With an empirical value of minus 0.08 millimeters, for example, 1% of the material thickness. Now test your correction. Very importantly, test your correction with a new bar. After all, you only want to run your rods through the machine once in future. On the contrary, if the material comes out of the machine at the top, the correction must be made in the positive range. A little tip about the material. Make sure that it is dry. It should not be wet from coolants. There should also be no paint residue or primer on it. The cut edge does not have to be deburred. You can take the material directly from the saw, dry it off a little, and run it through the machine. If the material runs through the machine wet from coolant, the scale can build up on the roller and thus distort the result of the scoring. Depending on the order and scope of delivery, you may have received such a discharge plate. To fit this, the outlet plate must first be removed, and then the discharge plate can be fitted in the same place. The discharge plate now has the advantage that the bars are pushed out and fall down to the left and right. Place a trolley or pallet underneath and simply push the bars through. This means you don't have to keep walking back and forth. When you have finished your job and are done with the straightening work, put the machine away. For example, remove the discharge or outlet plate and attach it to the brackets at the rear as intended. The infeed plate can also be removed. Then switch off the main switch and disconnect the machine from the power supply. Very important. Empty this drawer as well. This is where the scale goes. If you are straightening all day, you may have to empty this several times a day. Please make sure that this drawer is emptied. Maintenance and cleaning of the CREA wheel straightener. We recommend removing the housing and cleaning the machine approximately once a month or every 40 hours of operation. To do this, remove the handles and the screws to dismantle the housing. Once you have removed the cover, clean the machine of scale dust. I recommend using a vacuum cleaner and not compressed air. It is also important to lubricate the gears. Use the oil spray supplied. Spray oil on the opposite side on the right and left, as shown here in the middle, for about 2 seconds each. Then refit the housing and let the machine run for a few minutes to allow the oil to spread. In this video, I explain how to rectify faults on the machine using 2 to 3 examples. First, I cannot start the machine. The machine will not start. Important. Check whether the main switch is switched on, the emergency stop is unlocked, the direction of rotation is correctly set to clockwise, and the speed is fully turned up. The inlet plate must also be inserted correctly. I should then be able to start the machine. I can see whether the machine is supplied with power by the frequency inverter, which displays a value of 00. Now I can start the machine. If you have a situation where the digital display is no longer correct, the value is no longer correct. Perhaps you need to change the battery or something else is wrong, then it needs to be recalibrated. You can do this with this calibration piece. This is a blank 10mm flat bar. Slide the calibration piece between the rollers and clamp it hand tight. This is actually the same procedure as for setting the material thickness, then press and hold reset. The reference value 10mm then appears. The machine is now recalibrated. The machine simply stops during operation and cannot be restarted. This is almost certainly the inlet plate which has shifted. Loosen all the guides on the inlet plate. Check that the inlet
Kontrollieren
plate is
Sie den
correctly
korrekten
seated,
Sitz vom
tighten the
Einlaufblech,
locking screw and start the
ziehen
machine.
Sie die Feststellschraube fest und starten die Maschine. Die Maschine stoppt während dem laufenden Betrieb.
The machine stops during operation. This switch then flashes yellow. This means that the machine has gone into overload mode. Either the material cover has been set incorrectly or something has jammed. For safety reasons, the machine switches off.
Schalten Sie nun die Maschine aus mit der Stopptaste.
Switch the machine off using the stop button. The yellow flashing light goes out. Take the switch and hold it to the left. You must continue to hold it. Reduce the speed and start the machine. The bar runs backwards out of the machine. You can now turn the rotary switch back to the right, increase the speed again, and start the machine as usual. In this video, we are looking at how to use the straightening machine for round and square steel. In the previous video, you already saw the basic functionality of the machine, including the switches and so on. I won't go over that again, nor will I cover the straightening of flat steel. Now, I will show you how to adjust the machine to straighten round and square steel. First and foremost, the inlet plate for flat steel straightening must be installed. Otherwise, the machine will not operate due to the safety contact. So insert and secure the inlet plate. For round and square steel straightening, we don't need an inlet plate, but an outlet plate. This must be installed here and secured as well. As you can see, the outlet plate from the flat steel straightening process is used, and the optional discharge plate is placed on this side. Then we move on to the adjustments for straightening round bars. Straightening round bars has a fundamental difference. While we could measure the material with the machine during flat steel straightening, that is not possible here. Instead, I measure the material using calipers. It is important to measure along all axes. As you can see, there are differences of nearly 1/10 of a millimeter. I take the average value, in this case about 10.15 millimeters. I make this adjustment using the hand wheel, so I turn it to 10.15 millimeters.
Ich kann hier direkt dieses Material einstellen. Ich gehe jetzt auf 10,15 mm.
Next, the machine is turned on, and I insert the round bar.
Und ich schiebe den Rundstahl rein.
Again, I check if the round bar comes out straight or not.
Ob der Rundstahl gerade ist oder nicht.
In this case, it is straight and clean. However, it may still be bent on one axis. If it was bent along multiple axes, I need to rotate it. You can clearly see the marks left by the straightening process. So I rotate the round bar by 90 degrees, ensuring the worked side is facing up, and run it through the machine again. The result should then be satisfactory and the round bar should be properly straightened. If not, I may need to adjust the settings. My advice? Less is more. For round bars, it's not good to apply too much pressure from the start. You can hear it in the motor if it's working too hard. In that case, reduce the pressure slightly, for example, to 10.2 or 10.25 millimeters, and try again with a new bar. I am confident this will work.
Dasselbe ist übrigens auch beim Vierkantstahl.
The same procedure also applies to square steel bars. For example, I measure between 10.08 and 10.16 millimeters here.
10,08 auf 10,16. Auch hier nehme ich einen Mittelwert, 10,12.
Take the average value of 10.12 and run the bar through the machine.
10,12. Und lasse den Stab rein und jetzt ihn sauber reinzieht. Da sehe ich jetzt, dass der auf die andere Seite
Again, I
getrieben
check if it
wurde.
has been properly drawn
Ich habe ein
through.
Bild.
If it is
Auch da
uneven on one side, I
einmal
rotate the bar 90
Grad drehen,
degrees and run it through the
mit
machine once
derselben
more.
Einstellung einfach nochmal durch die Maschine laufen lassen. Und
In the
ich habe
end,
ein
I achieve a
sauberes
clean
Ergebnis.
result. There is also a drawer where the residue collects.
Wir haben auch hier
Please empty it
eine
regularly, just as
Schublade,
with
wo der
flat
Zunder
steel straightening.
reinfällt. Bitte fleißig leeren. Wie beim Flachstahlrichter.
For maintenance of the straightening machine for round and square steel bars, including the attachment for round and square steel, the casing must be removed, as shown in the previous video. Remove all flange screws as well as the inlet and outlet plates and the handles.
Alle Ein- und Auslaufbleche wie die Griffe dazu. Speziell hier ist, dass der Griff
Specifically, the handle for adjusting round and square material must be removed.
Material entfernt werden muss. Dazu drehen Sie den Griff komplett rein, suchen Sie die Befestigung.
To do this, fully turn in the handle, locate the fastening, remove the screw, and make sure not to lose it. Then the casing can be removed.
Anschließend kann das Gehäuse entfernt werden. So. Nun ist dasselbe zu tun wie vorhin
The
beim
procedure is the same as for flat steel
Flachstahl.
straightening. The gears must be lubricated with the supplied oil spray. Simply spray to the left, right, and in the middle for about 2 seconds in each area. Then reassemble the casing, and the machine will work perfectly.
Anschließen und lasse der Maschine laufen.